afternoon, ladies. I just want to start by saying thank you to each one of you who is here this afternoon, for the elders for allowing me this time to speak to you. You're an encouragement to me. We need ladies' help in personal evangelism. My husband always says we are the key to create an evangelistic atmosphere. If we don't do it, nobody else will. The Lord is depending on us to do our part. I just want to kind of start out by telling you a little bit about myself and our family. Of course, I am Nicole Whitaker, and I grew up on a little farm in Cottontown, Tennessee. And most people are like, where's that? It's actually kind of between, I guess, well, it's close to Gallatin. It's in between Gallatin and Cross Plains. But I didn't live in Cottontown. I lived on 31W, which was closer to Portland. And I was like, I don't know why I've got a Cottontown address, but I did. In fact, I lived in Sumner County line, and right across the street was Robertson County. So I had 4 schools that I could go to because I was right there, because all 4 school systems went right at my house. So, but that's where I grew up, and Rob and I met. It was March of, I guess, 95. I actually roomed with his sister at Freed Hardeman, and when she met me, she immediately called home and told Mama, "You've got to come and meet my roommate. I have met Rob's wife." And of course, I knew nothing was going on behind the scenes. I knew nothing of this. I just knew Mama was coming to meet me. So Mama came to meet me and got to know her. She went back home and told my father-in-law, she says, "I've just met Rob's wife. We just got to get her to Texas." And he goes, "Now, Kathy, you don't know that." She says, "Yes, I do." She says, "But the problem is getting her to come to Texas." Because I just didn't want to go nowhere. We were in Tennessee, that you just don't like to travel much out of your state. But anyway, and so they conjured up a plan for spring break to get me to go to meet him. And so that's when I met him, and that was it. We dated for 16 months, got married in August of 96, and so of course we have the 2 children who travel with us, Hannah, who is 23, and Jared, who is 19. So this is something that we have done as a family, and so when we took on this work, we're trying to keep them as long as we can. But we know that in reality that they won't stay with us forever. But we're enjoying our time having them with us. We got married right in between Rob's first and second year of preaching school at Southwest in Austin, Texas. And boy, taking me from the country to Austin, that was a very eye-opening experience for me. I didn't really want to get out of the apartment much because that was really different. But anyway, so we were there a year, and then he graduated, and we moved then to Poole, Kentucky, which is right below Evansville, Indiana. And when we moved there, we went back to the country of 300 people in the whole town. So I was like, oh, this is more my style here. I can handle this. And as you know, Rob's very evangelistic, and he went to the elders and he said, well, how can I get in with the community? And one of the elders says, I've got it, Rob. He says, go to the local post office every morning. And Rob's like, the post office? He said, I promise you'll see. Well, literally everybody from the community, that's where they went in the mornings. They sat and drank their coffee, waiting for their mail to get into their box. So that was an excellent way for us to get to know them. And we lived there 4.5 years. That was where Hannah was born. And so then from there we moved to Hillsborough, Tennessee, which is right outside of Manchester. If you know where Manchester We moved there, and we stayed there 5.5 years. When we moved there, they were highly involved in door knocking, which we had done some door knocking, but not to the extent that they had to do it. We would do a local campaign, of course, in our community, but we also would come to West Virginia in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and we would door knock there as well. So we learned a lot during that 5.5 years. And then we got approached from the elders at Willette, Red Bowling Springs, Tennessee, we weren't really interested in moving. In fact, we were trying to figure out some way that we didn't have to move. We just were not wanting to move. But it was like God kept opening these doors and kept opening these doors, and we could not go. And so we moved there, and we were there 11 years. We were able to convert about a third of the congregation there. So when we got approached almost 4 years ago from house to house wanting us to start the school, I thought, well, it kept coming up, but I didn't ever really think it was really going to come to fruition. I kept saying, no, he's not going to want to do this. He loves full-time work too much. Well, it came to the point where he was really realizing that the church we were losing. And he says, I cannot let this happen. We need to get on the road and help these churches. And so that's when we decided to move to Jacksonville, Alabama, where we are now. Now, we're not there very much, but that is home. A lot of times they'll ask us, where's home? And we'll say the Holiday Inn or wherever. Because, like I said, we're home maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and then we're gone again. But if you would have asked us even 5 years ago that we would be starting school, we would probably laughed at you, because this was not on our radar at all. This was just kind of put into our lap. But we are so thankful that we've had this time this weekend to be with you and to speak with you. So now let's get started, ladies. All right, the first ingredient, as Rob did a lot of talking about, is sending those cards to those who are sick, someone who is dealing with cancer, had recent surgery, needs encouragement, or someone who has lost a family member. On page 104 in your book, there is a prospect page. These are the people that we are looking for. There's a whole list. I think there's like maybe around 35 people. There's some time in their life they're going to fit that category, and when they do, that's when, ladies, we need to start cultivating that contact. It is important to show compassion to those that we want to reach. In Jude 22, it reads, "And of some have compassion, making a difference." On, I think it's 105, you'll see the contact list. And Rob really went over this really well. But ladies, this is when we need your help. You know people that I don't know and everybody else in the congregation does not know. But when they fall into one of those categories, that's when we need their name and address, and we can start sending them those cards, because it is going to make a difference in their life. What we suggest to the school is dividing the congregation up, whether it be 2 groups and maybe just 1 group, just depending on the size of the congregation. At Willette, we had 6 at Willette, and with Hillsborough, we had 4. But we want everybody in the congregation on a team. We don't want to exclude anybody. We don't want to have a sign-up sheet and say who wants to send cards. This work is for the whole congregation to work together in. And what we do is we would meet on Sunday evenings, and we'd have a team leader, and we would come in, and they would come in, and they would just kind of go over the list. Now remember, we don't want to do 1 card with 30 signatures. We want everybody in that group, whether it's a husband, a wife, your children, whoever it is, get them all involved in this work, because the more that we can send to them, the better effect it will have on those that we want to reach. And also make sure that you put the name of the congregation from wherever you attend. Make sure you put that in on that card as well, so they know who they're getting the cards from. And also, as Rob said, don't mail them all out on Monday. Mail them out strategically every day. That way they're not just getting a whole bunch of cards all in one day. And then they're going to start getting excited about going to their mailbox and say, oh, this is so much better than getting bills. So they'll be looking forward to going to their mailbox to see who has written them a card. And we are getting so much feedback from this work. It's amazing how many texts and emails that we are getting from people in local communities. They're just so impressed that the congregations are taking the time in doing this. When a person receives 2 to 3 cards a day in their mailbox, it will have a positive effect. Don't ever underestimate the power of a card. And I don't think Rob went over this, but when he said the DA, that's the date added. What we normally do through the school is once, if they haven't come to visit you, we have somebody that will be assigned that will go and just check on them to see how they're doing. You know, maybe you want to take them a little food basket or something, and just introduce yourself so that door, you're still opening that door and building a relationship with them. And so that as well helps too. But a lot of times when they receive these cards, they want to know who you are. They're gonna come to you. But sometimes they won't. And so we suggest having a family, just go check on them, see how they're doing. Whether it be taking them a pizza, you know, ask them, is there anything I can do for you this week? Maybe they need their lawn mowed. You know, whatever it may be, we want to be there so that we can help them when help is needed. In November of 2020, we received the phone call from Miss Tony Adams. She had been receiving house to house and saw that we offered free transportation to services. She had recently moved back to Alabama. She grew up in Alabama, but she got married and moved to Indiana. So she moved back because she lost her husband, and her family was really wanting her to move back so they could help take care of her. Well, then COVID hit, and she thought they could keep checking on her. They weren't coming around. She had nobody, and so she kept getting house to house, and so one day she decided, okay, I just got to get out of this house. I've been in this house too long, no more. If this virus kills me, it's okay. I just cannot take it anymore. Because her family kept telling her, no, you don't need to get out, you just need to stay put, and all this. And she finally said, I've had enough of this. So she reached out to us. And we said, well, sure, we'll pick you up. And it just so happened that the associate preacher lived really close to where she lives, and he started picking her up. Now, we weren't home at the time that they started picking her up, but we were getting a lot of feedback. You know, Kate was telling us all about Miss Tony and everything, and saying she had lots of questions. And Rob says, now Kate, don't answer her questions. And he says, I know, but this is very hard. Well, he's a high school teacher, so it's in him naturally to want to answer those questions. And we said, just refrain. And he did. He did a good job with her. And so we were able to meet her and take her out to eat. And we said, well, I hope you have a good week this week. She says, it's my birthday this week. And Rob said, we told her, well, happy birthday. When is it? So we found out when her birthday was. And he says, well, I'm sure you'll have a good birthday. She says, no, I won't. My family won't come around. He says, well, we will. Where's your favorite restaurant? And so we took her out to Red Lobster just to get to know her. in the meantime, we knew she was very lonely, so we had one of our other converts that had been recently restored. We had her calling her through the week, just checking on her. And so she was building a relationship with her. And when she was, we decided, okay, well, we'll all go out to eat and celebrate her birthday. And so that's what we did. And then Cade and his boys brought her balloons and cake. And so she was so excited that the church was going above and beyond. And so we were able to do that first study with her. Well, then she got COVID. And we did not get to see her again until February of 21. But during that time, we were constantly checking up on her. We were taking food to her door. Whatever she needed, we were trying to be there. We were sending those cards to her. We were just cultivating everything during that time. And she was so impressed with all the cards and the love that she had been receiving. And one thing, when we were able to get back with her and do more of the studies, I started sensing something was not exactly right. Every time baptism came up, she would just kind of get real nervous about it. And it was on that third study. Of course, Rob had done the survey with her, and we had found out then that she had been saved, and she was sprinkled in the Salvation Army Church. And so, we knew the Salvation Army was a church, but we really didn't know that that's what they did. And when she was younger, that's what they did. And so when she got to baptism, I could tell she was very, very uneasy. And finally we said, well, Miss Tony, what do you need to do? She said, well, I need to be baptized. But she said, Rob, I am scared to death of water. That was the whole thing. She was just so scared. And so he said, well, don't worry about that. I'll get Kate and we'll do it together, and everything will be fine, And he jokingly, because she's a big jokester, and she said, he told her, he said, I haven't lost one yet, Miss Tony. She just laughed. She thought that was hilarious. So I'll never forget, we get her to the baptistry, and I was helping her down the steps, and she was just a-shaking. And so we got her down, and Kate and Rob told her, said, now, Miss Tony, when you go under, make sure you shut your mouth, and close your nose. Well, when Rob baptized her, instead of her mouth going closed, it went wide open. She had all this water going in. Well, he brings her back up, and of course, it took her a few minutes to get her breath, but when she did, I'll never forget her looking up at Rob and saying, Rob, you tried to kill me. So we love Miss Tony. She has been a blessing to our family, but we realized that, like I said, when she was receiving all the cards, all the love that she was receiving during those few months, that was our first step towards the Bible study. The second step could be door knocking. In Revelation 3:20, it reads, Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me. I realize, ladies, that this is probably one of the hardest things that we do. We're not always comfortable with going to a complete stranger's house and knowing what to say and what to do when we go to the door. But one way that we have learned through the years that's most effective is when we go door knocking, we take a route around the church building that we know that we can hand deliver to. We don't want to take all the routes because there's no possible way that some congregations can get to everybody. So we want to get those that we know that we can reach out to. And we hand deliver that month's issue and go door knocking. And so what we suggest, now we've got to remember the approach that we used to do in the 50s and 60s. We can't do that anymore. That does not work. That is not effective. We used to do it. We did it for many years. You know, we would on the back, because the back side is yours, we would always invite them to a gospel meeting or something that the church was doing. We were not getting success doing it that way. And then members would get very, very discouraged. Like, well, we invited them to our meeting, well, why aren't they coming? You know, they told us they were coming, and then they're not. So what we have learned through the years is if we put something on the back of this that is directly for the community, they'll come. And I'm going to talk more about a community outreach. Advertise that on here. A VBS. Something that you know that they will come to the building for. Because like I said, inviting them to a lectureship or a ladies' day, they don't know these speakers. They have no idea. You and I know them, but they don't. So that's why we've learned that it's just not as effective to do it that way. You can still do it that way, but you're just not probably going to get as many visitors doing it that way. If you would like to know more about door knocking, of course, House to House does a door knocking campaign in October where congregations will, on that day, will all go out and we'll go door knocking. And in fact, House to House, you can get, through House to House, you can get the publication. It's a door knocking edition. And so that was very useful when we went to Rome, Georgia last year, because we actually had that edition, so they could understand why we were going out and door knocking, because it explains in there why we do this. And also, I don't know. Okay, let me go back. I didn't say. Well, let me go back here. We are doing two, as Rob talked about, we're doing 2 American Mission campaigns. We're doing our first one in June, the 11th through the 18th in Covington, Tennessee, which is just right outside of Memphis. And then the other one is at Carnes in July 23rd through the 30th. Now, we did our first one last year in Rome, Georgia, and we had 150 people show up from all over the United States, and we hit Rome, Georgia, and of course, what we do is during the day, Rob explains what we're going to do through the day. He does the seminar. He teaches you how to use back to the Bible, believe the Bible, and then we go door knocking. Now, when we go door knocking, we have a strategy every day. One day, it'll be taking out our house to house. The next day, we may go and ask what we can pray for. And then another day, we may go out and ask them, these ladies don't ever go out and say, can we help you with benevolence? They don't like that word, especially if you're in a higher community, a higher end community, they don't like that word. They get offended. So we use community services, right? Is that what it, right? Well, how can we help you? So that goes over a little bit better. In fact, this year at Covington, I know they're building a door, and we're going to role play. They're going to have different scenarios behind the door and us, so that we kind of know what we're saying. Because last year we tried to get people to do certain things, but everybody wants to kind of do their own thing. So we're going to kind of show them better this year what to do and what to say at the door. So I think that's going to be very useful and helpful to people when they go to the door. But we would love to see you at both or one of these, and because I know, ladies, door knocking is very scary for me. I'm the one that likes to hide. I don't like to be seen. I'm always hiding behind Rob, and Rob's like, come on, they're not going to open the door if they'll see you. So, I still struggle, but I am trying to do better on that. And then while we were at Willette, as I said, we would go door knocking at least once a year, and we would hand deliver our house to house. We came across Gary Williams and invited him to our services. He came one Sunday, and we found out that he was an erring Christian. He had been away from the church for over 20 years. Rob and Nick Jones studied with him using the one method study, Does It Matter? He then asked to be restored. We would have never found Gary if we did not knock on his door. Door knocking reaches those who cannot be reached with any other method. The third ingredient could be mailing out house to house, heart to heart. In Acts 2:46 it reads, "And they continuing daily with one accord in the temple and breaking bread from house to house did eat their meats with gladness and singleness of heart." Once a month, the congregation should get an email about all the requests for the tracts, the DVDs, or home Bible study material in your area. And in this section, they have a little section here that they can fill out, and most of the times they will send it directly to house. Sometimes they will send it directly to you. So one thing that we used to do when we were in full-time work, when we would get those requests, we would mail it to them, and we would never hear anything more from these people. And so I'll never forget, as I said, when we moved to Jacksonville, Rob had more time to do a little bit more experiencing. He's like, this doesn't work. This mailing it, we're not getting, they're not coming to the building. This is not successful. And so I'll never forget, he went to one of the secretaries and he says, when we get one of those requests, can you put it in my mailbox? And she looked at it real puzzled, like, why? We've never done anything like this. We just mail it. And he says, I know, but I want to try something. And so that's what we did. And one thing that we've learned, that when we hand deliver them the things that they want, we're getting better results than if we just mail it to them. And this is how we met Miss Brenda Glaze. It took us a little bit to find her because we were new to the area and we live in a college town, and we did not understand these southwest, northwest addresses. We were like, what is that? So we just kept going to these addresses and kept going, and nobody was ever home. Until one day, when a college student was there, and she says, no, I'm not Brenda Glaze. And she knew that we were new to the area. She says, but maybe I can help you. And so we showed her the address, and she says, oh, you need to go across the street. You'll probably find her. They said, oh, okay. So that's what we did. We never gave up on her. We were bound and determined we were going to find Miss Brenda, and we did. And when Rob went to the door, and as I said, I like to hide, I was, I guess, hiding that day because she was peeping out the door. You won't know who Rob was, you know. She didn't want to open that door. Well, I knew that she wasn't going to open the door unless she saw me. So I come out where she could see me. Well, of course, when she saw me, the door came open, and we were telling her who we were and why we were there. And she looked at us and said, well, you didn't have to do that. You know, you could have just mailed it to me. And we said, we know, but we wouldn't have gotten to meet you. And she says, oh, well, that's true. And so as we were talking, she looked at Rob and said, Rob, do you know anything about the Bible? I thought his eyes and my eyes were going to come out of our sockets because we were like, oh, wow. And he says, well, yeah, just a little bit. She says, well, good. She says, I just got married. My husband knows nothing about the Bible. Can you teach it? I'm like, whoa, sure. So we started those studies immediately with them. And I'll tell you, she was baptized, and she was one of the most zealous people I think I have ever met. I mean, she wanted to tell everybody that she even met, even if it was at a restaurant. She was trying to tell them all about the church. She was just so excited for what she had learned. We were, from her, we were able to baptize, of course, her husband Daniel, their friend Winford, and then her niece Geneva, who Rob talked about in the last lesson. And we believe that we would have never met Brenda if we just mailed her the tracts and DVDs instead of hand delivering it to her. The fourth ingredient could be getting involved in the New Movers ministry. You might think, what is the New Movers? Well, this is a ministry that you can get involved with through House to House that does it every month. They can get this information from the local post office. And so when we get that kind of tells us, how many we could prepare for when they move. You have an average of 38 that move into this area each month. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how many people are moving in. Now, one thing we wanted to do was when we got those names, we wanted to figure out a way that we could go and introduce ourselves to them and welcome them to the community. So what I did was I would go to your local Dollar Tree, not mine, because everybody has different things. I have learned that. So I go and buy some kind of basket. And then in your pack that I gave you, there is a list, a New Movers basket contents. There's 3 options. There's the cleaning supplies, which I'm going to show you. There's household items, and then there's food items. So that gives you just a kind of idea when you go to the door, this is some things that you can take them. And I buy things like paper towels, trash bags, some kind of cleaning cloth. And if you ladies like to crochet, knit, make them. I love those scrubby. That's my favorite. That's a friend of mine made. Anything like that. Let's see. Here's toilet bowl cleaner, a toilet bowl brush, an antibacterial cleaner, laundry detergent, dishwashing detergent, and then a kitchen cleaner. So sometimes it may change, ladies, depending on what's available. Because there's not very rare that my baskets look the same. It's very, very rare. Okay, so when we get those items, we want to get together as ladies, and we want to assemble them. So when we get those names of those that have recently moved into our area, we want to have them ready. And so some other things that's very important that you put in that basket is, of course, a house-to-house maybe, something that's got information about the church in it, a bulletin, something. And then we suggest go to your local businesses, your contractors, your plumbers, your mechanics, those people that you can trust. And put their business cards in there, because when you move into an area, you have no idea who you can trust and who you can't. So that's also a helpful little tool for them as well. And so we try to put those in our baskets as well. And there may be a time, once you get those names, the elders may tap you on the shoulder and say, can you go take this basket to our neighbor that has just moved into the community. Now, when you go to the door and you get a very good response, and a lot of times you're going to get a good response. If you do, make sure that you bring that name and that address, and because you want to put them on your contact list, put them on here. And then you want to start sending them cards welcoming them to the community. So not only are they going to get that, they're also going to be getting cards from the church as well. And one thing that we've learned through the years, especially with people that have just moved into the area, if you reach out to them first, they're more likely to come visit you than their own denomination that they went to in the last town they moved from. So we need to take advantage of that when somebody moves into our area. So let me introduce you to Miss Kim Bullock. She had recently moved into the area, And as I said, now House to House will send them a special New Movers Edition publication. And then 2 weeks later, they're going to send a postcard as well. So they're getting a lot of things from the church. And of course, these are important because it's got the times of services, the phone numbers or where they can reach you. And also where it says free community services, ladies, just putting free transportation to services, I think we had about half of our conversions last year was just from that, offering that on our house to house. So we highly suggest putting that on the front of your house to house. So she had received this from the church, and she immediately reached out to the secretary, and she told her who she was, and she said, I just moved here. And so Miss Deborah went and got one of the baskets, and she went over and took it to her. And we started sending her cards. She needed a ride. She had no vehicle. And so we started picking her up. And so the relationship started, and we learned that Miss Kim had been away from the church for many years. And so we decided we would use the One Method study because she knew she just needed to be reminded of her first love. And so we went through that study, and she was then restored, and she is now a faithful member of the church in Jacksonville. The fifth ingredient could be making visitor bags for those who are visiting the congregation. In Romans 16:16, it reads, salute one another with a holy kiss. The churches of Christ salute you. This was something that we just started doing at Jacksonville as well. We were having a lot of visitors. We have too many entrances and exits in our building. And so we were losing our visitors. We had no idea who was visiting. We weren't getting that contact information from them at what, because a lot of times when the person that does announcements, they say, would you please fill out the card in the pew back in front of you. A lot of times they're not going to fill that out. They're just not. You can't get your own members to fill that out, much less a visitor. And so we had to come up with a way, okay, how can we make this more effective when we have a visitor? And so one thing that we decided was, here again, I was going to go to the Dollar Tree and get a bag, and then I stenciled welcome. You may have a lady that's what she wants to do. That's something that she could do. Because we all have talents in different areas, ladies. So we just have to find out where we're going to be more effective. I know one month we had the children do the bags. They decorated the bags. But anyway, just trying to stress that the more we get involved in these works, the more effective we can be in doing it. And so we put things in like a pad of paper, and if you have the church's, pad of paper with the church's name, put that in there. An ink pen, if you've got the church's name on an ink pen, put that on there. Anything with the church's name would be wonderful to put in these bags. We put tissue, chapstick, and also, again, I've got the visitor bag content of things that we put in our bags. Lotion, hand sanitizer, gum, mints, and then I get a bottle, and I like these. These are my favorite. I here lately haven't been able to find them because they got these coffee mugs. I'm not a big fan of those. But anyway, does anybody here know what a cricket is? Okay, I see some hands. Okay, so you probably know what I'm going to say. Go and get the vinyl stickering. Put the name of the church on the cups. That way they can remember, hey, I got this at the Rogersville Church of Christ. So it's just another little thing that they can keep and remind them of where they received it. And so what we do is we get our bags together, we assemble our bags, and we always make sure we have that contact card in there as well. Because what we've suggested the school is we have families that are assigned in certain sections. At Jacksonville, it's kind of a 3-section. So we have a family in each section that knows when a visitor comes in, it's their job to go and welcome them. Now, one thing we don't want to do is when they come to the door, we don't want to run at them. We've had this happen, ladies. Scares the visitors half to death. They're like, you just see it in their eyes, like, just let me go sit down. They don't want to be approached. And so we've learned that we just let them sit down, let them get comfortable, and then we come, that family will come and sit down with them and introduce themselves and get to talk to them. And if they're from the local community, that's when one of the family members will go and get one of our bags. And then, so we can get that contact information from them. Because they're more likely to give you that information if you give them a gift. And so whether you fill it out or they fill it out, make sure that it's where that people can read it. Because the main thing is, here again, we want to put their information on this list, and we want to start sending them cards, thanking them for visiting and welcoming them back at each and every opportunity that they have. And so this is a very, very important thing that we can do as members, because we don't want to, as Rob used to call it, the welcome wagon. That's intimidating. They've got a shield up, and like I said, that they just want to get comfortable. And so we suggest just let them relax, and you just go talk to them. And it's been more effective doing it that way. Now, when we first met Miss Ellen, we immediately gave her one of the bags to welcome her. Perry was not able to come at first because he was not feeling well. When Perry was able to come, we immediately asked them if we could go take them out to eat to get to know them better. So they agreed, and we started the relationship. And I'll never forget, anytime we go out to eat with people that visit the congregation, Rob's always trying to figure out a common interest. And the common interest here was he loved college football. And I'm sure you know who his favorite team was. We're in Alabama, so he's a big Alabama fan. But Alabama at this time, of course, was not in the championship game. But that it was just so happened that we took them out on Sunday. It was Monday. We were going to go. We were talking, and I feel kicks under the table because my kids know. When they hear any kind of cue, they know immediately. Here comes Mom. Be ready. So when he said college football, and he enjoyed watching college football, we all knew. And so I'll never forget, Rob says, would you be interested in coming? We'd love to watch the game with you. And I'll never forget him looking over at Ellen and saying, can we do that? And she said, I don't know, why not? And so they came over, and we did just appetizers, and we were watching the game and together. And of course, Rob's always waiting for that time to bring up some things to get to know him more. And one of the things he always asked, is how did you learn about the Jacksonville Church of Christ? And one of the things that I'll never forget is she said, well, let me back up, because she was a Baptist and he grew up a Methodist, and they had been disgruntled with both of the denominations that they've been attending. She told us, she looked at us, and she says, they are getting further and further away from the Bible, and we're tired of it. And they said, we're so thankful to be at Jacksonville because we have not heard this much Bible in years. And so then that triggered Rob to say, well, what brought you to Jacksonville? The church, because where we're located, we're not in the center of town. We are literally right across the street from the college. So people in our area might not even know who we are because they don't pass by us every day. And so she said in 1999, when we moved to Jacksonville, we started receiving house-to-house, heart-to-heart. Ladies, it took them 21 years to ever step foot into the church building, but we're so thankful that they did, and we were able to start building those relationships and having those studies with them. We were able to baptize them the 1st of March and then of 2020, and then we went into quarantine. But we kept in contact with them, and they are faithful to this day. But one thing that we realized with them was when we gave them that bag, we were able to get that information from them and start sending them those cards and prospecting them. And so that's when we realized who is a potential prospect for the Bible study. The 6th ingredient could be when you see a visitor come in, always invite them out to eat, or have a family who is willing to invite them over for a meal. Normally when they come to visit us, they're not going to be able to do it that day, but we always extend that invitation for when they come and visit with us again. In Luke 5:30-31, it reads, "But their scribes and Pharisees murmured against his disciples, saying, Why do you eat and drink with publicans and sinners? And Jesus answering said unto them, They that are whole need not a physician, but they that are sick." Even Jesus ate with sinners and publicans, and we need to too. The impact this has on a visitor is one that they will never forget. They are not used to someone inviting them out to eat or having someone invite them into their home when they visit different churches. It makes them feel like you truly care for them. What I would suggest for you ladies is to meet and come up with a plan for those who would be willing to take out visitors to eat or have them in your home. Now, if you want to have them in your home, as Rob did a lot of talking about this work together, don't put this all on one family because it's very difficult. So if it wasn't for our children helping us, I would have struggled. But because I had them, they did a lot of work during the time we were doing the study. They helped cook, clean up. You know, that's what we need, ladies. When somebody may say, "Hey, I'll provide my home if you want to have the study here." So whether it's providing our home, even providing a dish, you know, a dessert, a vegetable, bread, drink, whatever it may be, even washing the dishes after the study or putting the food away, because that was my biggest thing. How do I manage all this stuff when I'm trying to do everything? And so I learned to help get my children involved in that, so they could do that, so we could start the study. And if they had children, they were there to babysit. So if you know that there's children going to be involved, make sure you have someone to watch those children, because the less distractions you have in that study, the more effective it's going to be. The more we get involved in evangelism, the more souls that we can save. Now this is Miss Geneva, who Rob talked about and I talked about earlier. She invited her neighbor Margie one day to services. She had just moved in to the apartment complex, and she and Geneva had got a special bond. She was helping with the girls. And so one day Geneva says, "Well, Miss Margie, I gotta go." And she goes, "Where are you going?" She says, "Well, I'm going to services." And she goes, "Well, I want to come too." And she said, well, she told her, said, "Well, where do you go?" And she told her, she said, "Oh, that's that congregation that I received the house-to-house from." So she knew a little bit about us, so that helped. And so she started coming, and we started taking her out to eat and getting to know Miss Margie. And we were able to start those studies with her. And she was one, she babysits. And we didn't really know that. I mean, we did, but we didn't know that these children would be coming to our house to do the Bible study. So sometimes it can be a surprise, like, oh. But anyway, she would bring them, and Hannah and Jared would both take the children and play with them, and so that we could do the study. And so I'll never forget with Miss Margie, much Rob can nail it down to even the time that somebody's going to be baptized. With Miss Margie, oh no. She was really struggling. She had been going through a lot of things in her life that she was trying to deal with, and it literally probably took us an hour later. And one thing that's important, ladies, that we don't just pressure and just make them, we don't want to do that. We want to give them time to process what they're learning. So it took her just a little bit longer, and what really helped her was Geneva being there, because Geneva had gone through some things that she was going through, and she did not know how she could become a Christian going through a divorce. She was really, really struggling with that. And so like I said, Geneva was a big, big help in this study. And one thing I also want to stress with these studies, make sure you have a plan. With her, a lot of these people, when we were at Red Bull Springs, I pretty much knew people that knew they knew somebody. Well, being in Jacksonville, I don't know these people from anybody. They are complete strangers. So that's why we like to take people out to eat, to get to know them. And I knew that she was a little apprehensive, and so we asked her, said, well, where would you like to do the studies? Do you want to have them at the church building, your home, or our home? And I just thought she'd say the church building, because she really, like I said, she didn't know us either. But she just openly says, no, I want to go to your house. I said, oh, okay. And so we went to our house and did the studies. And of course, the last study we normally do at the church building, because we want to be close to the baptistry when they're ready to become Christians. We have used this approach many times and have had many conversions doing so when we extend some form of hospitality. Many of our converts have said, if we did not do this, they may not be Christians today. When we open our homes or take visitors out to eat, it can lead to a potential Bible study. The seventh ingredient could be doing some kind of community outreach. Let your community know you care and where you are located. In Acts 2:47 it reads, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to the church daily such as should be saved. We should try to develop favor in our community. At Jacksonville, we do 3 meals a year. We do the shrimp whirl, then we do this, the big pig day, and the chicken and hot dog days of summer. I'm not a fan of that. I don't want to know what I mean. But anyway, sometimes congregations will do things like feed the first responders. They'll do back to school backpacks. They'll do a clothing giveaway. They'll give coats away. They'll do a Thanksgiving. They'll do a Thanksgiving meal giveaway. They'll do different things. And so we just have to learn what is going to work effectively in our community. Now, one thing that we strive when we do this, make sure you advertise properly. Make sure that you don't just say, we're going to do this, and then nobody has any way of knowing about it. Used to, you could say, put it in your local newspaper. Well, newspapers are kind of gone by the wayside. So what we do at Jacksonville, we have postcards made up that describes our meals, and we can take them into our local community and invite our friends and family who are not members of the church. Now, like I said, if you do the first responders, go to them. Let them know. Say, hey, we're doing this on such and such day, and we would love for you to come and be with us. So whatever it is that you are planning, even if you're doing a back-to-school backpack drive, make sure somehow, if there's a local school that you want to do it for, make sure they know that you're providing that service as well. We must strive to have a good reputation for the non-Christian. Our communities need to know that we care about them. We recently had a whole family obey the gospel from coming to one of our meals. We would have never met this family if someone from the congregation had not invited them. what we used to do, the first one we were able to attend, we just kind of watched the congregation to kind of see, get a feel of how they were doing it, which was okay, but we weren't getting that information from them. So what they were doing was they would go and introduce themselves to everybody, that they didn't know. But we were realizing too that we weren't getting that information from them. So the next time we did one of our meals, we decided, okay, when we see somebody we don't know, let's just sit with that family, get to know them, build that relationship with them so that we can get that information from them and that we can start sending them cards, inviting them to our services. We as congregations need to find some ways that we can reach out to our communities. Because like I said, some of these things that I said may not work for you that works really well with other congregations. You may have to try several different things to find out what will work best for you. Be patient and things will work out for the best. The main thing is that you're looking for that soul who has an honest and humble heart. The eighth ingredient could be doing some kind of benevolent work. In Acts 4:32 through 35, and it reads, "And the multitude of them that believed were of one heart and of one soul. Neither said any of them that aught of the things which he possessed was his own, but they had all things common. And with great power gave the apostles witness of the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and great grace was upon them all. Neither was there any among them that lacked. For as many as were possessors of lands or houses sold and brought the prices of things that were sold and laid them down at the apostles' feet, and distribution was made unto every man according as he had need." We need to come up with ways that we can help our communities, whether it's a food pantry, a benevolent building, or anything that we can think of that we can help our communities. I realize, ladies, the church has been burned for many years for paying light bills, giving food or clothing, giving gas money, or paying a bill. Because we know that a lot of people are going to take advantage of you. They're going to come and get it, and we never see them again. So we have had to come up with a better plan because they would get it, and as I said, we'd never see them. So we decided, okay, well, let's try something different. When we have those that call the church office, make sure that the secretary invites them to services and see if they actually come. They say, okay, we will help you, but you need to come at this certain time. You don't even really have to tell them they're coming to services. Because sometimes that might scare them, but they know. And a lot of times when we say Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, come. And we encourage a family that can do a Bible study. We'll take them in a classroom and start using back to the Bible with them. And then, of course, we help them, but we really truly see how interested they are in a Bible study. And as I said, we will always help them when they come for help, but we tell them they not only need to help themselves physically, but spiritually as well. And this is Miss Geneva, and this is two of her girls. She's got 3. The middle one was not there. Nyla, who is the oldest, that's who we're studying with right now. And we pray that she will be baptized next week. But she is Miss Brenda Glaze's niece, and as soon as Brenda was baptized, she started inviting them to services. And Miss Sherry Harris and her became very close, good friends, and she started doing the Back to the Bible studies with her. And it was not long after that the study started that she and the girls lost everything they owned in a house fire. And so once we got that information, we immediately rallied around her and those girls, got to her the things that they needed, clothes, whatever they needed, to help her out. And so during this time as well, she not only lost everything in a house fire, but she was also learning too that her marriage was not scriptural. So this lady, to say the least, she was going through a lot. And she put him away, and she and those three girls had to live in a hotel for a year until the process went through of putting her husband away. And then she's now living in an apartment with those three girls. But one thing that we pray that during all this, and those girls have gone through a lot, and her as well, is that they will always remember what the church did for them during some really hard times of their life. That one day that, as I said, we're going to be able to study with the oldest pretty soon. I mean, the last study this week, but we pray that all of them will become Christians in the near future. When we help someone with benevolent help, we should always pray that God will open a door that we can study with them in the future. Benevolence will not bring lost souls to Christ unless we care enough to try to study with them. It should always be done to try to win souls. This is the purpose of benevolence. The ninth ingredient could be for us to be a teacher or a silent partner. 2 Timothy 2:2 reads, "The things that thou hast heard of me among many witnesses, the same commit thou to faithful men, who shall be able to teach others also." We are not all going to be comfortable teaching, but we can be a silent partner to help with the study. The teacher needs to learn a method and become very familiar with it. And ladies, this might be something that you would want to try. I've had a lot of ladies after my class. They say, we're going to get together and we're going to practice Bible studies with each other, do mock Bible studies, just so you will start feeling comfortable with doing a study for when the time comes, because we all need to be ready when it comes up that we can study with another woman. At first, when I started learning how to use back to the Bible, of course I was always Rob's silent partner. It was not until our first mission trip to Jamaica that I conducted my first one. I can remember how nervous I was in doing it, but I knew it was time for me to be a teacher. The more studies I have done, the more comfortable I've become in doing it. We definitely need more ladies to step up and become teachers and silent partners when teaching other women the gospel. I trained Hannah to do one in Jamaica as well. She was my silent partner and was able to watch me do one. I told her that I eventually wanted her to be able to do one as well. I'll never forget in Sandy Bay, the preacher's wife, Cora Duncan, came up to Hannah and says, "Hannah, there's been a young lady that has been visiting the congregation for some time, and I think she's really interested in having a Bible study. Would you be willing to do the study with her?" And she agreed, and I was able to be the silent partner just to help her in case she needed it, but she didn't need it. Those books are very self-explanatory, so she taught this young girl the gospel, and she was baptized, and she's still a faithful member of the church in Jamaica. This is a great opportunity for mothers and daughters to work together in soul winning. My suggestion would be to find out which ladies would want to be a teacher and who would want to be a silent partner. You never know when you may be asked to conduct one, and you will want to be prepared for when the time comes. We need ladies to be willing to teach a Bible study, or one who will be a silent partner. Which one will you be? The 10th ingredient could be someone who is willing to be a keeper. We need ladies to help with this work as well, whether it be a husband and wife team or two ladies who would be willing to help keep the saved saved. What we suggest through the school, as Rob already explained a little bit, is we suggest having a class on Sunday mornings specifically for them. And we use books like Growing in Christ. And then during the week, we also suggest you have a family that will be assigned to do mentoring classes with them. And we use like The Beginning of Our Confidence by David Farr or the Acts Workbook by Brother Bobby Bates. These are just good materials that you can use in studying with new converts. This gives the new converts an opportunity to open up in a more private setting and discuss personal issues. Most new converts are not going to ask questions in a large adult class. We never want to give up on the new convert that we have worked so hard to convert. We know that the devil will work very hard to get them back. In Mark 1, 9 through 13, it reads, "And it came to pass in those days that Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee, and was baptized of John in Jordan. And straightway, coming up out of the water, he saw the heavens open, and the Spirit like a dove descending upon him. And there came a voice from heaven, saying, Thou art my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. And immediately the Spirit driveth him into the wilderness, and was there in the wilderness 40 days, tempted of Satan, and was with the wild beast, and the angels ministered unto him." If Jesus was tempted after he was baptized, so will the new converts. We want them to become well-grounded so that they will always remain faithful. At Jacksonville, we have those that are designated to be keepers. And as I said, we encourage that once a week, our mentors will get together and have a Bible study. And a lot of times after the study, they'll either go out to eat or they may just go out for ice cream. But ladies, it is so important that they build more relationships with the members of the church. Because this is a lot of work. When you're working with new converts, it's a full-time job. You can ask Hannah. When we're home, we are taking care of our new converts. So we never, ever want to forget or give up on them, because they can go through some very hard times in life, and they just need you to talk to. This, as I said, helps build a close relationship with the new converts. The more they connect with the members, the less likely they will leave the church. We have had much success with the converts remaining faithful when we have people assigned to be keepers. In summary, there are 10 ingredients to bring souls to Christ. We can begin immediately. Now, some of these things are going to take some time, but one thing that we can start immediately is starting sending those cards to those in our community, knock doors, mail out house to house, heart to heart, make and deliver no movers baskets, hand out visitor bags, take the visitors out to eat or have them in your home, do some kind of community outreach, help others with benevolence, teach a study, or be the silent partner, or lastly, keep the saved saved. I hope and pray that these things that I have taught you today will help you in personal evangelism. And ladies, I realize this is a lot of information to dump on you all in one time setting. So I leave you with my cell phone and my email address. Please feel free to contact me at any time that you have any kind of questions or just need to talk about what I can do to help in personal evangelism. We all have roles, ladies, and we all have different talents, but we just have to find our spot. Where can we be the most effective in personal evangelism? And I thank you so much for your time and attention today. You've been wonderful. I realize this is a long weekend. This is a lot of information packed in 2 days, too. So, but thank you so much.